Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition. We turn now to poem 367, Over and Over Like a Tune, a problematic poem, challenging poem for us to read. It's another quote-unquote biblical poem. We've commented already in a number of our studies, Emily's dance with deity, if I can call it that. Emily raised within a certain Christian tradition, but always struggling against it, but then always asking as well about the potentiality of its validity. What if in fact it is true? And in this case, she'll be referencing Matthew 25, especially verse 33, and the idea of the afterlife and the judgment day, where we're told that Christ shall set the sheep on his right hand and the goats on his left, and of course the sheep are saved and the goats are lost. And obviously you can see it in a poem like this that Emily is going to be challenged to imagine. If it's true, will I end up a sheep or will I end up a goat? And it's kind of clear that at times she thinks she's probably more goat than sheep. Now our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at LearnStrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you worked through our set of introductory comments where we talked about Emily as a number of different P's, one of those priests. The idea is she struggles with the whole theology she was raised with. I'm hopeful as well that you've worked through the preceding 366 poems. We just finished with 366, although I put away his life. And if you have, then you can place this poem in line with other poems that are similar. The struggle for Emily to ask, do I actually believe the kinds of things that I was raised to believe? And in that regard, she's always kind of playing with the tune of theology. You'll remember this word tune from our previous poem, 366. This is how she says it. Over and over, like a tune, the recollection plays, drums off the phantom battlements, cornets of paradise, snatches from baptized generations, cadences too grand, but for the justified processions at the Lord's right hand. You'll remember right hand from poem 168. In other words, she's playing around with a tune she's heard many, many times. Why over and over? Well, again, you guys get to decide. One argument is she's heard it many times. Another is she's thought about it a lot, over and over. Notice, like a tune, the recollection plays. Now, this word plays is, I think, central. I've said to you guys, I think Emily is playing in many, many of these poems. She's trying to figure stuff out, and she does it through her poetic lines. I'm thinking, she says about this tune, I'm hearing it over and over again. Then she goes to drums. Drums off the phantom battlements. Now, her use of the word phantom is fascinating here. In other words, imagined, maybe untrue, maybe not to be worried about. Cornets of paradise. You'll remember paradise from the previous poem 366, where she said, to paradise with me. Here, cornets of paradise. In other words, the saved, the baptized generations, as she'll call them, they get to enjoy paradise, right? Snatches of tunes, right? In other words, things from long ago. So much of Emily is about recollection. It's about remembrance. It's about, I know I heard this growing up. Now my question is, do I actually believe it? Do I buy it? Cadences too grand. It's almost impossible to imagine. Snatches from baptized generations, right? And in that regards, right, there's always the saved, right? Those are the saved, the baptized generations. Cadences too grand, but for the justified processions. And I think that's the key word. Because if you've been reading with us, you know that we've already argued that standing behind so much of Emily's poetry is the great work of Milton, and especially Paradise Lost. And we've given full lectures on Paradise Lost at LearnStrong.net that if you haven't run to ground, you might want to at least give some time, energies to those opening lines of man's first disobedience and the fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal taste brought death into the world and all our woe. And then a few lines later, what is it that he hopes to do to justify the ways of God to men? To explain why there must be all this pain, suffering, woe, as he calls it, and as Emily has called it in a number of poems. Why there must be this. Can you justify all of that? Notice her use of the word justified here is capitalized. The justified processions, so we go from generations to processions, from battlements to generations to processions, at the Lord's right hand. In other words, there are the saved at the end. What about the goats, right? And I think a 2a or point can cut both ways. I think she's arguing at 2a, the message, that religion is a refuge for the saved, paradise, the promise of paradise for the sheep. But what about the goats? I think at 2b, the allusion to Matthew 25:33 is self-evident. And at 3a, of course, Milton's Paradise Lost, I think, stands in large measure here. Finally, at 3b, what are your thoughts about this notion of the promise of heaven as an idea eschatologically, that it is a form of a tune that is helpful? Or no? What are your thoughts on that? Thank you.